Hello friends, myself Vidyalata Patil from Sweris College of Engineering, Pandharpur. In today's session, let us discuss about modes of operation of block cipher. We know that block ciphers encrypt fixed size blocks. That means DS encrypts 64 bits block with a 56 bit key, while AES encrypts 128 bit blocks with three alternatives, that is of a key, that is 128, 192 or 256 bit. So to use these block ciphers, actually we need to handle arbitrary amount of data which may be available in advance. So in that case we can use block mode in which is appropriate and may only be available a bit or byte at a time, and in that case stream mode is used. To apply block ciphers in a variety of applications, 4 modes of operation have been defined by NIST. The 4 modes are intended to cover virtually all the possible applications of encryption for which a block cipher could be used. As new applications and requirements have appeared, NIST has expanded the list of recommended modes to 5 in special publication 800-38E. So these modes are intended for use with any symmetric block cipher including triple DES and AES. So let us discuss now a simplest mode of operation, that is the electronic code book, which is also called as a ECB. Now whenever we are operating on any arbitrary amount of data, then that message is broken into independent blocks which are encrypted. Now each block is a value which is substituted like a code book, and hence the name electronic code book in this case. So that means in electronic code book, a plain text is handled one block at a time, and each block of plain text is encrypted using the same key. So ECB is the simplest of all the modes, and it is used when only a single block of info needs to be sent. For example, session key encrypted using a master key. In electronic code book, ciphertext, that is equal to, for each of the blocks, ciphertext is equal to DES encryption using DES algorithm with key k of the plain text. Now it may be a ith block, so then ciphertext of ith block is equal to encryption using DES algorithm with key k of the ith plain text block. So this diagram shows electronic code book encryption as well as decryption. So here we can see that the plain text is broken into number of blocks, so that is from P1 to Pn, and then each of these block is separately encrypted using a same key, that is k, and then we get the different blocks of ciphertext. So all these blocks are combined together to get a final ciphertext. Now again, when we want to decrypt this ciphertext, so again this ciphertext is broken into number of blocks, and each of block is separately decrypted with the same key k. So if we look at the advantages and limitations of ECB, then we found that ECB is not appropriate for any quantity of data since repetition can happen, and that is here this repetition can happen if the same type of message block is present, or particularly this happens with a data such as graphics. So because of this, the blocks can be having same ciphertext, and that is why it may have happen that attacker may get the text, and also because the blocks can be shuffled or inserted without affecting the encryption and decryption of each block, and that is why this could be the weakness of ECB, that is the electronic code book, and then it is mainly used to send one or very few blocks, for example, a session encryption key. To overcome the problems of repetitions and order independence in ECB, we want some way of making the ciphertext which is dependent on all blocks before it. So, this is what CBC gives us by combining the previous ciphertext block with the current message block before encrypting. To start the process, the message is broken into blocks and then they are linked together in encryption process. So, to start the process actually, it uses an initial value, that is a IP, which is usually well known. Often all zeros are present in that vector, or otherwise it is sent by encrypting by ECB mode and just before starting of the CBC use. So in a CBC mode, each previous block cipher is chained with the current plain text block, hence the name cipher block chaining. CBC mode is applicable whenever large amount of data need to be sent securely, provided that all data is available in advance. For example, email, FTP or web, etc. So here in this figure we can see cipher block chaining, where plain text is broken into number of blocks. So here these are broken into n number of blocks, that is from P1 to Pn. Now for first block, initial vector is used. So it is XORed with the first block of the plain text and then it is encrypted using any one block cipher with key K, and then we get the first block ciphertext. Now this, that is C1. Now this C1 is XORed with the second block plain text, that is a P2, and again it is encrypted with key K to get C2. Now this C2 will be XORed with third block of a plain text and then after that it is encrypted. So this output of third block is given to the fourth block, and so with continuation with that. For the final block, Pn, that is the nth block plain text, will be combined with the ciphertext of n-1th block and then it is encrypted to get ciphertext for nth block. So this is the encryption process that is used in cipher block chaining. Now when we are decrypting the ciphertext, that time first of all C1, that is the first block ciphertext, is decrypted with key K and then it is combined with the initial vector to get P1. Now for the second block ciphertext is decrypted with key K and then it is combined with the ciphertext of the plain text. Ciphertext of the first block, and then resultant that we get is a plain text of the second block. Now remember that here we are not combining plain text but we are combining ciphertext of the earlier block with the decrypted text in the current block. So that is the decryption process in a cipher block chaining. Now whenever we are operating on large amount of data, one issue arises, that is a final block may not have the sufficient amount of bits, and that means the last block that may be short to handle a possible number of bits in the required block cipher. So to handle this, one must have to pad this last block, typically with zeros, and then must recognize padding at other end, which may be obvious. For example, in text, the zero value should usually not occur, or otherwise must explicitly have the last byte as a count of how much padding was used, including the count. Note that if this is done, if the last block is an even multiple of 8 bytes or has exactly the same form of pad plus count, then we'll have to add an extra block, all padding so as to have a count in the last byte. There are other more esoteric ciphertext stealing modes which avoid the need for an extra block. So now let us discuss about advantages and limitation of CBC. So here in a CBC mode, a ciphertext block depends on all blocks before it. So any change to the block affects all following cipher blocks, and that is why this chaining provides an avalanche effect, which means the encrypted message cannot be changed or rearranged without totally destroying the subsequent data. But however, the disadvantage of this CBC mode, we could say as it needs initialization vector, that is IB. So which must be known to sender and receiver. So if we send it in clear, attacker may change bits of first block and change IB to compensate. So hence IB must either be a fixed value or it must be sent encrypted in ACP mode before rest of message to stop the attacks on first block. So now let us discuss about the third type of mode of operation, that is a cipher feedback, which is known as a CFB. Now here in this mode, message is treated as a stream of bits. That means if the data is only available a bit or byte at a time, then for example we can take it as a terminal session or sensor values, etc. Then it must use some other approach to encrypt it, so as not to delay the information. So idea here is to use the block cipher essentially as a pseudo-random number generator and then to combine these random bits with the message. So here the result is a feedback for next stage, and that is why the name for this mode, that is cipher feedback. So in this mode again we start with initial vector to get things going. These then use the ciphertext as the next input as originally defined. Idea was to consume as much of the random output as needed for each message unit, that is bit or byte, before bumping bits out of the buffer and re-encrypting. This is wasteful though and shows the encryption down as more encryptions are needed. As alternate way to think of it is to generate block of random bits, consume them as a message bits or bytes arrive, and then they are used up, only then feed a full block of ciphertext back. This is CFB 64 or CFB 128 mode, depending on the block size of the cipher used. For example, DES or AES respectively. So CFB is the useful choice for quantities of stream oriented data and for authentication use. So this diagram shows the cipher feedback, that is a CFB, where first an initial vector IB is used for first encryption and output bits are divided as set of S and B minus S bits. The left hand side S bits are selected and are applied on XOR operation with plain text bits, and the result is given as an input to shift register and the process continues. The encryption and decryption process for the same are here shown. So if we look at the advantages and limitations of CFB, so it is appropriate when data arrives in bit or bytes. So that means CFB is a usual stream mode. So this has the limitation that there is a need to stall while do block encryption after every n bits. Note that in a CFB mode, the block cipher is used in encryption at both ends. So if it is used over a noisy link, then any corrupted bit will destroy values in the current and next block. Since the current block feeds as input to create the random bits for the next, so either must be used over a reliable network transport layer, that is a pretty usual, or use OFB, as errors will propagate for several blocks after the error. Thus, the alternative to CFB is OFB, which is output feedback. Here, the message is treated as a stream of bits and output of cipher is added to message. So, here output is the feedback, and that is why the name of this mode is a output feedback mode. So, in this mode, feedback is independent of message and it can be computed in advance, and that is the advantage of this mode, that this feedback can be computed in advance. So it is good for bursty traffic, and secondly, any bit error only affects a single bit. Thus this is good for noisy links, for example satellite TV transmission, etc. So this diagram shows output feedback, encryption as well as decryption. So for the start of encryption use of the first block, initial vector is used, which is encrypted with the key K. So from these encrypted bits, left S bits are used as the output feedback, and then the same bits are encrypted with the XORed with plaintext P1 to get ciphertext. Now this output is given as an input to shift registers, and then these are encrypted with key K, and then again left S bits are selected so as to give a output feedback, and then these are XORed with plaintext P2 to get C2. So here this output feedback can be calculated earlier, and that is why this is advantageous. So if we look at the advantages and limitations of OFB, one advantage of the OFB is that bit error in the transmission do not propagate. But the disadvantage of OFB is that it is more vulnerable to a message stream modification attack than as a cipher feedback. Since OFB is a Varnam cipher variant, the stream should never be used more than once, otherwise the two ciphertext can be combined, cancelling these bits and leaving a book cipher to solve, and sender and receiver need to remain in sync or all data is lost. Also, research has shown that you should only ever use a full block feedback, that is OFB 64 or 128 bit mode. So now to discuss about a counter mode, which is CTR mode. It is a new mode which is a variant of OFB, but which encrypts a counter value. Although it was proposed many years before, it has only recently been standardized for use with AES along with other existing 4 modes. It is being used with applications in ATM, that is asynchronous transfer mode, network security and IP security. A counter equal to plaintext block size is used. The only requirement stated in SP 838A is that the counter value must be different for each plaintext block that is encrypted. Typically, the counter is initialized to some value and then incremented by 1 for each subsequent block. This mode of operation is used in high-speed network encryptions. So, this diagram shows the counter mode encryption as well as decryption. So, here the counter is used to encrypt for the encryption, and then it is XORed with the plaintext block. Then for next block, counter is incremented with 1 and then we get the encryption process. So this is the encryption used in a counter mode. If we look at the advantages and limitations of counter mode, then counter mode has number of advantages. So in parallel hardware and software efficiency, it can pre-process the output values in advance of needing to encrypt, can get random access to encrypted data blocks and is simple. So here, when we are considering about the efficiency of counter mode operation, then it can do parallel encryption in hardware mode or a software. It can also pre-process in advance of need, and it is good for bursty high-speed links. So it is very simple and it shows a provable security, but like OFB, it has the issue of not reusing the same key and the counter value. Otherwise, it could break, like OFB. So here we discussed about different modes of operation of block cipher. Thank you for watching video.